Welcome back to Fluent English, the podcast. I'm Giorgia. Think in English.
And I'm Willem R. Today's episode is really exciting.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take on big linguistic challenges, slice them up with psychological precision, and serve you the most actionable, fascinating nuggets of knowledge.
And we know exactly why you were listening today.
Oh, yes. We are diving deep into that universally shared, intensely frustrating pain point for every single language learner.
That moment, the moment when you know the English words, you know the grammar, but your mouth just it won't form the sentence fast enough, that lag time.
Ah, the dreaded brain freeze. It's like, standing in front of an open door but deciding to walk around the entire building just to get to the other side.
That's a perfect analogy.
You're ready to speak, the person is waiting, and suddenly your mind just slams on the cognitive brakes. You start frantically translating your thought into English, word for word, and, well, everything just spranks.
Absolutely. And that hesitation, it's not a failure of your vocabulary, it's a failure of system architecture. Our mission today, then, guided by some truly insightful material, is simple. We need to extract and explain the precise, non-negotiable steps you must take to stop translating English in your head and achieve that holy grail of fluency.
Automatic natural speech.
Exactly.
We are going to show you how to essentially reprogram your entire speaking operating system. I love that idea, reprogramming your brain. This isn't about memorizing another 100 words.
No, not at all. It's about changing how your brain processes the language to make English feel, well, effortless.
For most English learners, the core struggle is the overthinking, right? The word-for-word mental translation, which then causes the freezing and the struggle.
And we're here to dismantle that system.
So our promise to you is a comprehensive analysis, which will all lead up to a precise, actionable 7-step method. This is all derived directly from the source material.
And these steps, they're meticulously designed to bypass that internal translation process, ensuring the words you want to say emerge naturally.
Just like they do in your native language. We're looking for speed here, not perfection.
Precisely. We'll start with the psychological foundation of this translation trap, understand the input you need, and then, move step by step through the techniques that will force your brain into, let's call it, English autopilot mode.
Okay, let's unpack this. We begin with the cold, hard, psychological truth of why fluency so often stalls out. The core reason is wonderfully frank and simple.
Your brain is still treating your native language as the main operating system. It's the default program for all complex thought.
Okay, so think of your brain's native language system, whether that's Hindi, Spanish, Japanese, whatever, as a high-speed, dedicated fiber optic connection.
Right. It's pre-installed from birth, running all the essential programs in the background with zero latency. It's the language of your deepest emotions, your fastest responses.
So when you try to speak English, your brain, being super efficient, just routes the whole command through that native operating system first.
Because it's the most reliable path it knows. It's the path of least resistance.
And we really need to map out this detour, which is happening subconsciously at, lightning speed.
Yeah.
Because when you see it mapped out, you realize why it's impossible to keep up in a real conversation. It just sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. And it's a massive cognitive bottleneck. This is the translation loop that happens every time. It's 4 distinct steps. First, you receive the English input, a question or a comment.
Then, step 2, your brain, looking for absolute certainty, instantly translates that into your native language, just to be sure it understands the meaning, the nuance.
Then step 3, the crucial part people forget.
Yeah.
The brain formulates a reply, but still entirely in your native language.
Why?
Because it's easy. It requires almost no cognitive load to think in your own language.
And then, the disastrous step 4. The brain tries to translate that perfectly crafted native language reply back into English, word by excruciating word.
Yes, applying grammar rules consciously in reverse.
Yeah.
And that multi-step sequence, it just introduces a huge delay, a linguistic latency.
It's just too slow for real-time conversation.
Way too slow. A normal conversation moved at maybe 150 words per minute. The result is that agonizing moment where your brain gets stuck between step 3 and step 4, the connection times out, and you hesitate. You freeze.
It's like trying to run a complex piece of software, but your internet keeps dropping to dial-up speeds. The mental energy it takes just to manage those 4 steps is huge.
And it leaves zero mental space for nuance, for personality, for just being yourself.
And this leads us to what true fluency actually is, based on the material.
Right. Fluency is achieved the moment your brain stops translating and starts responding automatically. We are not aiming for perfect grammar. We're aiming to completely eliminate that translation step.
So why does our native language feel so effortless? I mean, looking at the psychology, our native language has these deep, secure, pre-built speech pathways.
Exactly. The connection between a concept, let's say hunger, and the sound, the words for I am hungry, is direct. It's a well-worn path through a forest. You don't have to think about which way to turn. You just walk.
So it's what psychologists call implicit learning. You just absorb it.
You absorb and imitate. You don't learn by conscious rules. Those pathways allow for instant communication because there's no intermediary step. No conscious analysis of, conjugation or tense.
So the goal is crystal clear. To speak English without thinking, you have to consciously and repeatedly build new pathways in your brain.
Pathways that bypass the native system entirely.
But how do we make sure these new English paths are just as fast and reliable?
Well, this is where we hit the critical caveat from our source material. Mere practice is not enough.
Okay.
You can practice translating English sentences for years and still be painfully slow, because all you're doing is reinforcing step 4 of that slow loop. You're practicing the wrong thing.
That's a really key distinction. So many learners think, if I just study harder, the speed will come. But if you practice consciously analyzing grammar,
You are only reinforcing the analytical, non-automatic part of your brain. You're training the slow part.
you might know how to build a perfect sentence. But getting it out in real time takes 3 seconds, and by then, the conversation is gone.
It's moved on. The practice has to be the right kind of practice. The kind that is specifically designed to introduce time pressure and trigger an automatic, immediate response.
It has to actively prevent the brain from even starting that translation process.
Yes. And that is the foundation of the 7-step method we are about to detail.
All right, so now that we get the deep psychological barrier, the need to get rid of that native OS detour, let's jump into the first 2 steps, the ones that start building those high-speed English pathways.
We begin with a foundational, undeniable principle. Your brain can only output what it has input. Speaking is, at its core, sophisticated repetition.
So the essential first step to breaking that translation barrier is massive, consistent input.
Massive input. And when we say massive, we don't mean just having English on in the background while you cook.
No, this is dedicated, high-volume exposure, designed to literally flood the language acquisition centers of your brain.
Precisely. The material emphasizes that listening to English every single day must become a central part of your routine. And the input needs to be diverse.
Podcasts, movies, daily life situations.
But you need to be listening to authentic, natural speed conversation, not simplified, slow, academic lectures.
Right, and the strategy here is consistency and volume. But we have to explain why this works so much better than just sitting with a textbook.
Because your brain needs to absorb much more than just definitions and grammar tables. This is the core of implicit learning.
The music of the language.
Exactly, the music. By flooding the system, your brain starts to subconsciously absorb the rhythm, the tone, the natural speed, the emotional color, the organic flow of everyday expressions. It's learning the music, not just the technical notes.
And this subconscious absorption builds those new automatic pathways without you having to consciously apply rules.
And this is where the source material makes a really powerful quantitative claim. It states clearly that 1 hour of focused listening a day beats 5 hours of conscious grammar study.
That's a huge difference. Why is it so large?
It's crucial. And it goes back to our definition of fluency. 5 hours of grammar study might increase your accuracy, but it's fundamentally a conscious, rule-based activity.
It reinforces the slow part of the brain, the translation part.
You're training the bottleneck. You might know how to construct a perfect conditional sentence, but retrieving that rule and applying it in real time is what slows you down.
Right. By then, the moment has passed.
Contrast that with 1 hour of deep, focused listening. That hour bypasses the conscious analyzer completely. It feeds the subconscious part of your brain, your natural pattern recognition system. It moves the language from theory to intuition.
So it's about improving retrieval speed, which grammar study just doesn't do efficiently.
You have to start being a scholar analyzing rules and start being a functional user absorbing sound patterns.
Okay, but I can hear the question now. Doesn't this run the risk of learning mistakes? If you're just absorbing everything without correction.
That's a fair point. But the source emphasizes that speed is the priority at this stage. You need to develop the intuition for sound and flow first. Accuracy can be refined later.
So you're saying if you wait until you're 100% accurate, you'll never get the speed.
You'll never speak. You need to switch from thinking about grammar structure to recognizing sentence packages, and massive input is the necessary lubricant for the next step, active replication.
Okay, so once you have that massive input foundation, the next critical step is active, high-speed replication. The source material calls this shadowing.
And it is a superpower technique for overcoming that translation habit.
So define it for us. What exactly is shadowing?
Shadowing is speaking along with native audio in real time. And I have to emphasize, this is not listen, pause, repeat. It is speaking as the audio is playing.
You're basically mimicking the voice just milliseconds behind the speaker, a shadow.
Yes. And the primary rule here is the most important one: don't think.
Don't think.
The entire purpose is instantaneous copying. This practice is specifically designed to give your brain zero opportunity, 0 microseconds, to engage that native translation module.
It's a cognitive trick, isn't it? Almost like a distraction.
It is. If your brain is actively focused on mimicking the sound output immediately on the mechanics of articulation, it literally cannot perform that multi-step translation loop. It's forced into a reactive, automatic mode. The material calls it a linguistic sprint.
A linguistic sprint. I like that. But, shadowing can be really difficult at first. If you're trying to replicate the sound in real time, you often can't process the meaning fast enough.
That is correct, and that difficulty is precisely the point. The source suggests you start with material that's actually slightly below your comprehension level, specifically for shadowing.
So it's okay if it just sounds like gibberish at first.
It is absolutely okay. You should focus on 3 key elements to copy: the pure sound, the phonemes, the rhythm, the cadence, and the stress, the emphasis on certain syllables and words.
So we're basically treating English like a musical score, focusing on the timing and the beat before we even worry about the meaning of the lyrics.
Exactly. You are building muscle memory in your mouth, your throat, your diaphragm. This is physical training for English sounds, which often require different tongue placements than your native language.
And the fluency mechanism here is that shadowing directly attacks the translation problem by introducing extreme time pressure.
It forces the brain to link the incoming sound directly to the outgoing response with no native language detour. The pressure prevents the brain from reverting to its old, slow habit.
Because the native language processor just can't keep up.
It's too slow. If you commit to, say, 30 minutes of shadowing a day, you are repeatedly running these linguistic sprints. You're improving your brain's response time until that immediate English-only reaction becomes a habit.
You're hardwiring the direct English pathway.
Physically and cognitively, you're forcing the language to become automatic.
That makes perfect sense. So we've laid the groundwork with massive input, and we've started building speed and physical capability with shadowing. Now we need to move on to how we train that critical internal voice.
Yes, because that is where most of our silent thinking actually happens.
This next step introduces a powerful, private, and importantly, zero-risk technique: talking to yourself in English throughout the day. The source calls this think out loud.
It's basically internal monologue training. And this step is so crucial because it bridges the gap between passive absorption of sound, the input, and the very demanding act of speaking with other people.
It's a safe training ground.
Yes, where you start integrating English into your own cognitive machinery.
It might feel a little strange at first, narrating your own life like a sports commentator.
It does.
But the benefit is immense. It moves the language from being this foreign concept you only use in a classroom to a tool for processing your daily immediate reality.
We all have that constant, noisy stream of internal chatter running in our native language. This step is about consciously hijacking that stream and forcing it to run entirely in English.
That's a great point. If you can't think it in English, you certainly can't speak it quickly in English.
The source gives some great practical examples, and it emphasizes this shouldn't be complicated. It's mundane, immediate narration.
Like asking yourself simple functional questions. What am I doing right now? I am making tea.
Or where am I going next? I must go to the market. What should I plan for the rest of the day?
These simple structures force the brain to access basic, high-frequency vocabulary and sentences instantly. It simulates real life without the pressure of an audience.
But here's a challenge I want to raise because I know a lot of learners experience this. You might start narrating in English, but then you get to a tricky word and you internally translate it. Or you formulate the next full sentence in your native language first.
Right. How do you stop that internal switching back to the native OS?
That is the crucial failure point. The advice is, if you catch yourself internally translating, you must scale down immediately.
Don't try to narrate a complex political idea.
Exactly. Stay grounded in the physical world. If you find yourself translating, I must remember to apply for that new permit, just break it down. I must remember, new permit, apply. Stick to the micro thoughts.
So the goal is volume and consistency of English thought, even if the thoughts are just simple fragments.
Precisely. This exercise builds automatic speech by training the brain to narrate your life without conscious analytical effort. When you can narrate your daily routine entirely in English, you've successfully integrated it into your primary operating system for daily thought.
It becomes the default.
Now, let's address another major psychological block: the tendency for learners to try and construct these perfect, long, complicated sentences too early.
Oh, that's where so much pressure comes from. If you aim for complex grammar and perfect articulation in your first year of speaking practice, the cognitive load just guarantees failure and demotivation.
Which is why the source material strongly recommends starting small, focusing on micro-sentences. This is all about the power of small, achievable wins, creating immediate, successful output.
And these are the essential quick phrases, right? The ones that are super useful in a conversation. They act as connectors, fillers, reaction phrases.
We're talking about the indispensable gems like, I agree.
That makes sense.
I think so.
I'm not sure. Or even just short reactions like, really?
I see. Or cool. These phrases are like the oil that keeps the conversational machine running. They're fast, reliable, and require minimal cognitive effort.
Their goal isn't to express a complex idea. It's to maintain momentum and participate instantly.
They prove to your brain that English is fast and functional.
And this emphasis on speed and small wins leads to what the source material calls the confidence cycle.
Yes. It states, short sentences build speed, speed becomes fluency, fluency becomes confidence.
That cycle is the motivational core of this entire step. Every time you successfully use a microsentence instantly, without translation, you get a tiny shot of confidence.
And that feeling reinforces the automatic English pathway. It makes you more likely to try a slightly longer sentence next time.
Whereas if you only attempt long, complex sentences, you increase the chance of freezing, which reinforces the habit of hesitation and the reliance on translation.
So by mastering, say, 50 or 60 of these micro-sentences and quick reactions, you're not just learning vocabulary, you are building immediate, zero-latency response capability.
If you can instantly say that makes sense, your brain registers a victory. It reduces the perceived risk of speaking English.
And that reduction of perceived risk is paramount. It's about conditioning your brain to associate English with success and speed rather than with hesitation and anxiety.
Okay, now we have to tackle what the source identifies as maybe the biggest psychological barrier to automatic speech.
Fear?
Worrying about mistakes, worrying about grammar, fearing judgment. It acts as a fundamental cognitive break. It's a vicious self-defeating circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
You fear making mistakes, so you hesitate.
The hesitation gives your brain time to start up the translation loop. The translation slows you down, which increases the likelihood of a major mistake or a freeze.
Which just reinforces the original fear.
And when you're under stress, your brain defaults to its oldest, most reliable pathways.
Your native language.
Exactly. That survival mechanism, which wants to ensure you don't look foolish, actively shuts down the newer automatic English response system. We have to override that.
So how do you do that? How do you operate through the fear?
The solution mindset provided here is radical, but it's absolutely necessary for fluency. Speak even when you're unsure. High volume output, even imperfect output, has to be prioritized over silence.
I can hear listeners pushing back on that right now.
Yeah.
Isn't there a genuine risk that if you consistently speak incorrectly in high volume, you're just reinforcing bad habits?
That is the essential challenge, and the source addresses this by explaining the difference between learning and optimization. If you prioritize fluency, that is, speed and volume over accuracy at first, you are prioritizing building the necessary pathways. The brain learns through optimization, not perfection.
And this requires a powerful psychological reframing. Mistakes are not failures. They are updates.
This is the core concept. When you make a mistake and the native speaker either corrects you or you realize the error later, that moment of correction provides sharp, high-quality data to your brain.
Ah, I see.
It tells the automatic pathway, okay, that sequence resulted in an error. Next time, try this other sequence instead.
So you can't fix the internal code until you run the program and see exactly where it breaks. The error itself becomes the data.
Precisely. Every mistake provides valuable data, teaching the brain a faster, more efficient route. This approach encourages resilience and high-volume output.
And crucially, it eliminates the need for perfect pre-planning before speaking, which is what triggers the translation loop in the first place.
If you accept imperfection, you instantaneously gain speed. You are teaching your brain that failure is not a disaster, but a necessary step in the optimization process.
That is a fundamental paradigm shift. You have to be willing to sound silly or make errors, because that risk is the entry fee for speed.
Now, let's shift from the psychology back to linguistic structure, but still with the goal of maximizing speed. This step is about moving beyond tedious, isolated grammar rules.
To focusing on larger, predictable linguistic structures, the source calls this pattern learning.
Yes, English relies profoundly on these patterns, or chunks, that function like ready-made linguistic packages. Think of them as Lego blocks.
Right. Memorizing a complex grammar rule and consciously applying it takes time.
But recognizing a pre-built pattern and just slotting in a new piece of vocabulary is instantaneous. It's the difference between building a machine from raw materials versus assembling a high-performance prefabricated kit.
The patterns provide the structure instantly.
And the source gives several key, high-utility patterns that every learner should master. Treat them as single, unbreakable units. I want to, I have to, could you please, and do you know if?
Let's break one of those down, like, I want to. If a learner only knows the definition of want and the rule for infinitives, they have to consciously construct the sentence every time.
Correct. But if you memorize I want to as one single unit, you can instantly plug in hundreds of verbs. I want to eat, I want to leave, I want to study.
You're not thinking about the grammar at all.
Not at all. The pattern I want to already contains the correct tense, the correct subject agreement, the necessary preposition. The brain doesn't have to pause to check. By treating it as a fixed unit, you bypass conscious grammar application entirely.
This dramatically increases the speed and efficiency of retrieval. You're not building sentences anymore. You're just calling these pre-built functional structures.
And the efficiency in repetition is key. Learning and reusing these patterns allows speaking to become automatic because the brain isn't building every sentence from scratch. It drastically reduces the cognitive load.
Which, as we said, is the key to preventing the translation loop.
And the final insight here is that this is how native speakers talk. We communicate using these established patterns, these chunks. We don't pause to consciously apply grammar rules.
We don't stop to conjugate the verb to be or analyze the perfect tense.
We just use the established automatic pattern. And we are trying to train your brain to mimic that intuitive pattern recognition rather than a scholar's analytical mode.
So you acquire these patterns through listening, and you repeat them until they become muscle memory.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered input, replication, internal monologue, micro-sentences, fear removal, and pattern recognition. But all of that is training. Now we hit the non-negotiable step, the final catalyst.
Step 7, real conversations.
This is where the rubber meets the road. Your automatic pathways might work perfectly in your room, but they are only truly battle-tested when you introduce external variables, unpredictability, and pressure.
And that pressure is so necessary.
Why? I mean, if I'm confident after months of shadowing and thinking out loud, can't my brain just switch modes when I feel ready?
Unfortunately, no. You cannot fully train your brain for automatic speech until you put it under real pressure that demands an immediate, instant reaction.
Solo practice lets you pause whenever you want.
Real conversation does not respect that luxury. When you're speaking with someone, you're not just thinking about the English words. You're interpreting nonverbal cues, dealing with unexpected topics, managing turn-taking.
All at the same time.
All simultaneously. That complexity demands instantaneous processing. A real conversation is the ultimate stress test. It forces your brain to prioritize communication speed over grammatical perfection.
If you pause for 5 seconds to translate, the conversation moves on without you.
That urgent, undeniable need for instant output is the final catalyst. It solidifies those new, automatic English pathways. It forces the cognitive system to discard the slow translation loop permanently.
So what are the best ways to get this practice, especially if you're still really nervous about making mistakes in public?
The source emphasizes a graduated exposure plan. Start with low-stakes, high-volume interaction. The first rung of the ladder could be AI voice chats.
Ah, that's a great idea.
They provide instant reaction and feedback without the social judgment or emotional complexity of a human. They let you test your speed without fear.
So it still provides the time pressure without the fear filter.
Exactly. Then the next level is genuine human connection, maybe with dedicated language partners online. These partners are generally patient, they focus on mutual improvement, they introduce real-world unpredictability.
And
Finally, joining English clubs or social conversation groups. That introduces the complexity of managing multiple speakers and fast-paced dynamics.
so the progression is use AI to master speed, use a language partner to master synthesis, and use a group to master chaos.
That's a perfect summary. This final step is the ultimate test. It's where all the previous 6 steps come together. It's where those newly built automatic pathways are tested, reinforced, and updated through immediate real-time feedback.
This is the grand finale of the 7-step method.
The journey from translation to automaticity is complete only when your brain can successfully handle the urgency of real human communication.
So if we bring this all together, the overarching goal for you, the listener, is really simple.
Train your brain to respond instantly, not perfectly. We have to remember that perfection is the enemy of fluency. Speed is your most reliable friend.
We've built the whole system for you today. Massive input to force implicit learning.
Forced replication through shadowing.
Internalizing the language by thinking out loud.
Building speed and confidence with microsentences.
Removing the internal break by reframing mistakes as updates.
And finally, leveraging powerful linguistic templates through pattern learning.
All of which leads to the non-negotiable test of real conversations.
And if you consistently apply these steps, focusing relentlessly on volume and speed, your brain will eventually make a profound internal switch.
It will stop treating English as a foreign code that requires slow, deliberate translation.
And start treating it as a functional, default operating system.
And that is when the magic happens. If you keep speaking, keep pushing, and courageously embrace the chaos of imperfection, your brain will switch to auto-English mode.
It's a journey of neurological restructuring, and every small win, every microsentence you speak without translation reinforces that new, faster path.
So we encourage you today to just embrace this path. Start with one small commitment. 15 minutes of focused listening or 15 minutes of internal narration right now.
Consistency is the only key that can unlock the subconscious mind.
And before you go, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought. True fluency is not measured by the absence of mistakes.
It is measured by the absence of hesitation. When you stop pausing, you have won the battle.
We encourage you to reflect on your current practice. Are you reinforcing the slow loop of grammar analysis? Or are you prioritizing the high-speed pathways of automatic response?
If you found this deep dive into communication psychology and practical fluency training helpful, please take a moment right now to like this episode.
Subscribe to the deep dive for more actionable knowledge.
And share it with anyone you know, a friend, a colleague, a fellow learner who is still struggling with that frustrating mental translation loop.
Let's help them unlock their automatic fluency.
Keep listening, keep speaking, keep growing.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.